Well, hello, RVM, and good day. It's Father Joel with the infamous
You know
Pastor.
what? I am tired of being the infamous Pastor Stacy. You need to go.
I'm
tired of doing this with you. Move on.
I'm getting thrown out.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know what
I'll
to
let
do.
you know when you can come back.
Oh no, I'm out of here.
Anya, come here. Oh, this is better. All right, so Joel actually asked me to kick him out. I didn't really do it, so don't think we're mad at him. But
No.
We are excited because Anya is here with us. Anya, I don't even know your last name.
Oh, Neher.
Neher is one of the chaplains up at the Rogue Valley Manor, and we're just switching things around today, and so Anya and I are going to talk.
Thank you for being open to all this switcheroo.
I'm excited about it. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Pastor Stacy.
So we are looking at the Transfiguration story this week, which is coming from Mark. Do you want to read it, or would you like me to?
Could you read it?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. So Mark 9, and we are looking at verses 2 through 8. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice. "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. This is the word of God, and it can be trusted. Amen. So, I'm a lover of Peter, even while he drives me absolutely insane.
I remember that from previous Spiritually Speaking.
Yeah,
yes,
I feel strongly.
Yes.
This one, he bugs me because it reminds me of myself, and
I'm right there with you.
A little uncomfortable with that reflection sometimes. But him not knowing, it says he didn't know what to say because he was terrified, but he talked anyway.
Exactly.
That's like my go-to when I'm freaking out. Oh, my mouth should be moving, I guess. Automatic response.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he talks and he wants to stay there, and this amazing thing has happened, and instead of like moving on, he just wants to capture it and stay in it, and again, have been there too many times in life where I have a mountaintop experience and just want to cling to it, and then I can't for whatever reason, and it's hard to come off the mountain, and this is one of the texts that endears Peter for me. Like I like him, even while it's a little too close to home. It makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
In this one.
I'm right there with you. And it's interesting because hearing you say Peter is trying to hold on to it, which I see that too. My first response in seeing myself in Peter was, oh, okay, this is a moment that if I were really in this, I think this is a moment, if ever there was one, for just beholding, for just being, for just receiving, for being little me is not really in this picture. Mm-hmm. And then I think, well, what did Peter do? Which I might as well say, what would I do? First thing, talk. Like you said. Second thing, try to do something.
Yes.
And not just do something, but make something kind of like a house, a shelter. Yeah. Which is home, right? And that if there's anything that means security, safety, the known, the familiar, it's some sort of shelter or home.
Oh, that's
and so
beautiful.
I know I'll build one for you and for Elijah and for Moses. And so talk, do, and make safe. Yes. Somehow manage this totally unmanageable, amazing situation of glory that is beyond what the human mind can do, can contain.
Yeah.
And yet the impulse is to contain and to do and to manage.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I think in a way that's my MO to some degree all the time.
Yeah. I heard one point, the process that we go through is often do, think, be. And we should really be, think, do,
right.
is the proper or a way that we can experience success more often. And
right.
100%. And I mean, Peter, I just love him. I mean, the
too.
funny part about this too is that right before this text, Peter has just said to Jesus, "You're the Messiah."
Right.
So then, like, when this happens, I mean, I think I would be terrified in the midst of this as well, but it shouldn't have come as too much of a surprise to Peter, because he seems like he was kind of clued in, you know?
Right.
And I think that piece for me is a reminder too that frequently when I think I know, I don't know, or I'm kind of missing it, you know?
We know, we can know here and still, it's not like in the gut and in the heart and through the whole, Yeah.
And the disciples continue to sort of not get it, and it's so fun for me to make fun of them for not getting it, from my really nice perch over here. I get it all.
We are in a nice, safe, comfortable place right now, I'd just like to say.
So I try not to make fun of them too much, but they are funny, so it's hard. But.
And somehow I think they would be willing to lend themselves to that in the spirit of searching our own hearts.
Yes, I think that's true. Maybe,
That's
a decade
yes.
later. In retrospect.
Yeah, exactly. or thousands of years later, a couple thousand.
Exactly. It'll take longer.
Exactly.
Yeah. I also, one of the commentaries I was reading talked about this text kind of being sandwiched, which it's not really, but it is a little bit, between stories of Jesus healing blind people.
Mm-hmm.
And we have these bookends of healing blindness with the disciples in the middle kind of still being blind. And just thinking about my own blindness, and so often I find I need help finding my blind spots.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes,
because I'm blind
you can't
to them.
See them.
But
exactly.
Sometimes it
All
seems like we live in a culture that says it's not okay to share that, and I mean sometimes it sounds so poorly. Obviously, that's not a good idea, but. For me, I think that's part of living in a community of faith, is that I think people will share that with love more often than brutality, or I hope they will. But to invite, myself into relationships that can be open to sharing blind spots,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of a important call that I hear in this text. So.
Yeah, and I when you're talking about the disciples still not seeing, and I think of how completely silent John and James are. I mean, they were there too, but all the focus goes to Peter,
right?
Because Peter is so Peter, and he does these kinds of things over and over again.
He's the extrovert in the crowd,
exactly.
right? Yeah,
and the manager. Kind of.
Yes.
So, but I did notice the silence of James and John, and I don't know how much to read into that, because who knows? But but I liked that they were there. There were the three, Moses, Elijah, and Jesus, and then the James, John, and Peter.
Yeah.
And those two are totally silent. And for me, that gave, as I read it over again and again, their silence actually added a layer.
It does. I'm so glad you brought that up. I've never thought about that before. That's, on one hand, it's like there's witnesses,
yes,
which are in a situation like that necessary. On the other hand, I'm like, did they have a conversation that we didn't get to hear about? You know what I mean?
Who
Their
knows?
ideas
Yeah.
were really awful, so this is what they came
So they got
forward
edited.
with. You know, right?
But you know, one thing I love talking about conversations is the part where it says that Moses and Elijah and Jesus, they were talking.
They're just chilling
They're
out
just
over
chatting.
there. Yeah.
I just love that. The way it just is kind of like, oh, and they were talking to Jesus.
Mhm.
And it's like, it gave me, I don't know if this is weird. Maybe it is. But it gave me a really comforted feeling to think of this connection, this lineage, and this blessing going back and forward between the Hebrew prophets and Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, the fact that just saying that they're talking, it gives this feeling of deep friendship.
Yes.
And that really moved me, actually, just that one little line.
It is lovely.
Yeah.
I do think, you know, there's so many, well, there aren't that many, but there are some moments where it feels like we see Jesus, the human that Jesus is, shining through, and that's kind of thinking of Jesus as being friends with, you know, there's his buddy Moses, and my man Elijah, you know, like, did they high five? And there is something in that is so comforting, to be able to see Jesus as a human.
Yeah, exactly.
And then from there, understanding that God really understands my experience of the world through that, you know, and sometimes I get lost to the fact that God has not just an understanding of me, but empathy for my experience in the world. And I think that's a pretty big piece.
Yeah, and it's right there next to the Transfiguration. So you have the most
Holy of holies.
Yeah, sort of the most godlike that Jesus has appeared so far in some ways.
Yes.
Except in his baptism, which is kind of a circle back with the speaking
words,
of the beloved.
exactly.
This is my son, or you are my son, the beloved. But so here he is at his most shining, kind of the Transfiguration as prefiguration of the resurrection, and the ascension, and those two being just so close together, because the humanness is still so there, right there in that same. And at the end, there they were, just with Jesus, and it doesn't say, but you don't get the feeling that he's dazzling anymore.
No,
that moment has passed. And there he is, just also human,
just there again.
Yes.
Yeah. There's in that especially, I was thinking about just the presence of God, and the way the presence of God for me over time, but also just over situations, is different from time to time. There have been times when I have experienced the presence of God, you know, profoundly on silent retreat by myself. And there have been times when I've been surrounded by hundreds of people and in community with them, and I've felt so connected to God, you know. And just thinking about this, like, clearly the presence of God in this wild experience of Transfiguration and of Moses and Elijah being there, but then at the end, but Jesus was still there. The presence of God is still there. It's different. It doesn't maybe feel as like, ooh, you know, electric. But still there, and still needed and necessary and comforting. And I go through too many times in life of just feeling a disconnect, maybe because I need more mountaintop experiences, or, you know, it just happens, life happens, but to have that memory of sometimes the presence of God is really simple. And, you know, if we open ourselves up to the possibility that God could show up when we're brushing our teeth, then maybe God could show up while we're brushing our teeth.
Exactly.
Just that sense of the presence of God sort of wanting to be
Mhm.
with us
Mhm.
if we are open to it.
Yes.
And yeah.
And I've known some people, and I think I've done this myself, although I think less over time, but who kind of live for peak experience to mountaintop experience to mountaintop
Yes.
experience. And I don't judge that, but I just think it's kind of sad.
Well, it's not
Because
sustainable.
It's not sustainable, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's almost as if those are given to us as gifts,
Mm-hmm.
as reminders, maybe placeholders or reference points, but it's obviously not given that to us to live that all the time here,
Right.
in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we have so many reminders of that
Yes.
in the Bible, you know,
Yes.
that the whole be still and know that I am God.
Exactly.
You know,
I was just thinking of stillness and silence
Yeah.
and how that's always accessible if we just take a moment to
yes.
stop and just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which sometimes can be hard, especially
Yeah.
when we're out of practice at it.
absolutely.
I've been working recently on my practice of meditation and prayer and silence, and you know, it is so much like a muscle.
Yes.
And so it, you know, when I start anew at a new practice like that, it is hard.
It is hard, yeah.
And then, you know, noticing after a few weeks, oh, this isn't as hard as it was. And
Right.
and I think, you know, especially given the way we live, even in a pandemic, it's just really loud and busy. And
I was just thinking about that the other day. It was like, we're really not good at slowing down, because
No.
even we have this huge situation
Yeah.
encouraging us to maybe go inward,
Yeah.
maybe slow down, and yet we manage to find ways not to do. I mean, I'll just speak for myself, but
oh,
not to do any of the above.
yeah,
If
absolutely.
yeah, it's very
Yeah.
easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, in so many ways, we've almost made it louder, you know,
Yeah,
in like oh, what are we going to do now? Everybody freak out, you know?
Right.
And,
Right.
so yeah, it is an education. I love that AA saying you take yourself with you wherever you go, you know? So
Exactly.
even to a pandemic, not
Exactly.
just myself.
Front row seats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it is hard though to find that however, you know, one does the stillness and the silence.
Mhm.
It's a discipline for sure. It's not
It is.
something
I've found kind of a sneaky way. I've
Mhm.
done it disciplined,
mm-hmm.
and I go in and out of doing
Sure.
that phases. But I found a sneaky way to do it, and I do it almost every day now because I make it really quick. Really quick, but often. So I'll just really quick, like not even a minute, and I'll just be like, "Is God here right now?" Oh, wow. And there's just this like.
Yes.
And then I might be like answering the phone or something, you know, but I mean,
Yes.
just even doing that, and that's like a discipline I can do.
Right.
Like
It's
sustain.
tolerable. Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I'm so with you on that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So Joel and I usually finish with like, what are you gonna take home from this for this week?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
I do think for me, it's back to where I began, the reminder. I am on the extroverted side of things, and so my first instinct in most situations is to talk and to feel lacking if I don't know what to say. And just this is a reminder to me that sometimes it's okay to just be, and that silence and observation are equally as important as putting things out there. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I actually had an example of sort of pulling a Peter, so to speak. Sorry, Peter. I love you. I really do. Just last night, I was doing story time with my 6-year-old niece on FaceTime.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we go back and forth between Little House in the Big Woods, or Auntie Anya makes up a story that she jumps in and adds to, or changes the
Yeah.
So I was at an especially animated part of my story, and I was like really getting into it, and all of a sudden her quiet little voice says, I love you, Auntie Anya. And at first I didn't even hear it because I was so like, and then, and somewhere it registered though. So I was just starting to slow down when she said, I love you, Auntie Anya. And that was very unusual for her to just say it like that right in the middle. In fact, she's never done that before. So then I just actually stopped. And I said, I love you too, Lila. And then I sensed there was something more. And I said, I really miss you. And she said, yeah, I really miss you. And when are you going to come? And it was just like, I happened to get it that time. But it also made me see how often I miss the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm ever going to be perfect at that or anything else.
Yeah.
But it was just this seeing Peter have to move, have to do, have to build, have to. And I just thought, like
The
you're talking about the
presence.
ministry of presence or just being present.
Yeah.
But also being willing to stop and slow down no matter what, if I can, obviously not right in the middle of driving in some unsafe way or something. But yeah, just be the willingness to be stopped and to be slowed.
Yep.
And that to me, it was such a teaching right there.
Yeah. From a little voice too.
Exactly,
I love that.
exactly.
She was showing you a blind spot.
Exactly.
That is so awesome. I love
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Great
Children,
story.
little children, all children, but I mean,
it. Yeah.
especially it somehow seems the little
does.
ones just have a way. Of,
Yep.
Yeah.
Bringing you home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you so
Thank
much
you so
for
much.
coming and talking with me. I really enjoyed meeting you.
thank you, and same here. And I do have to get your autograph for several of your members of your fan club at the manor. I'll be in big trouble with Rosa Romano if I don't get your address and your address.
Yeah.
No, that would be creepy.
Yeah.
Just your autograph.
My husband would be like, "Who's out there? Notice more traffic in front of our house." Oh my gosh.
Autograph.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for
Okay.
joining us, and we'll see you in some variation next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.